We are always excited to talk Miami football here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, but especially tonight to talk Miami football. Cam Underwood's on the line here. Come on, State of the U to talk the Canes. Cam, it's great to see you. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. Here at the apartment in Lauderdale, hanging out. You can see the piano still behind me and everything. The light panel that I said I was going to put up a picture in front of, but I've been lazy to do that. But yeah, man. Yeah, good to be back. Good to talk some football. So yeah.
It is great to see you. It's been about a month to 6 weeks, something in that range, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to have you back. I don't think that any other Miami contributors would have an issue with me saying that you are the marquee name. There's no question about that on our Miami shows and coverage. No question about that. And again, they do a tremendous job. There's a number of them. But it's great to have Cam back on here talking Miami football and not a slow off season around college football, and particularly with this program. The transfer portal in particular has livened things up. N'Kosi Perry, he dipped his toe in, but now he's taken his toe back out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, that was the big news of the day. Obviously, being the self-proclaimed biggest N'Kosi Perry fan, like other than his mama, since I first saw his recruiting film as a high school junior. It was not expected for me. I think the expected move was for him to transfer somewhere else, because I believe that N'Kosi Perry has the skill to start somewhere. Group of five, power five, even. I mean, he's 6'4", he can move. He has a rocket for an arm. Is he the fastest? No. Is he the most accurate? No. But does he have the physical abilities that could lead him to start in other places where there are players who are not as physically gifted as him, or have done enough or as much on the field as Kosi has? I absolutely believe that was the case. It was, I'm wearing my Canes for Life shirt. I don't know if you guys can see that, but, sometimes you have goals and sometimes you have dreams. And N'Kosi Perry being a Miami Hurricane was one of those for him. And, it was a tough decision by all reports for him to enter the transfer portal. It's an emotional kind of thing. He starts here, he beats Florida State. He's in the lineup, out of the lineup. Then you bring in D'Eriq King, who's one of the handful best college quarterbacks around. And, a guy who could have potentially developed into the starter. You're relegated to the bench. Just stay ready when your number's called. You come in the bowl game. You play really well when King goes down with an injury and everything. So, yeah, I'm sure it was a tough decision for N'Kosi to enter the portal. But then, he, like I said today, decided to take his name out of the portal and stay at Miami. And, for the spring, I think that Perry's probably the odds-on favorite to get the majority of the snaps on first team, unless you really want to see what you have coming in the future with Tyler Van Dyke. Because Tyler Van Dyke, he's a kid, the first play of his junior high school film, flat-footed, he flicks a wrist and the ball flies 65 yards. You know what I mean? Like, it's another guy with uncommon arm talent who's going to be here for longer. So you think, okay, maybe you want to kick the tires on that. Maybe you want to push him a little bit to see where his growth and development, happen to be right now. But it's like I said, sometimes you have goals and dreams and you want to live that dream. And, for N'Kosi Perry being a Miami Hurricane, I believe is that dream. And he decides that he wants to stay and do that. I don't think that he's going to beat out D'Eriq King or anything, pending King's health for the opening game against Alabama in 200 and whatever days on September 4th. I don't think that, absent some injuries, I don't really think that he's going to see the kind of playing time here that could potentially be available for him elsewhere. But again, it seems, with the decision to stay, like N'Kosi Perry really values, being a Miami Hurricane, loves his teammates, loves the school, wants to be here. And, he just adds an air of certainty to the quarterback room in terms of the backup, because your backup quarterback is always one snap away from playing. And you saw that in the bowl game, and it would be hard pressed to find many backup quarterbacks who are as accomplished and as good as N'Kosi Perry is. And again, this is a guy who I fully believe, if he stayed in the portal, could have and would have went to another Power 5 school and started. But he decides that he wants to be here. And again, you have King as your starter, Perry and Perry is your clear number 2 to me. Van Dyke is, if you're looking for just this year, I would say Perry. If you're looking for the future, then I would say Van Dyke. Then you have Jake Garcia, who's a 4-star recruit. He was the number 5 pro passer in the last recruiting class. Another guy who was a cannon for an arm. And then you got Tate Martell. He decides he wants to come back and finish his time at Miami. Where did that come from? I don't believe that he's going to play quarterback, or he's not going to clock major snaps, but he's a guy who's in the quarterback room right now. And then you have Peyton Matoka, who was, the high school, Houston small school, private school co-player of the year a couple of years ago, playing against, not the greatest competition. But when you put up more than 4,300 yards and like 55 touchdowns, look, you're going to be playing against bad competition, but you still got to put the numbers up. And again, he's not a guy who I believe is going to play any meaningful snaps here, but you got 5-6 guys in that quarterback room now, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think that's the biggest news of the day. And like I said, if nothing else, N'Kosi Perry returning to Miami raises the floor at quarterback from what it could have been, because you have certainty with De'Aaron King pending his health. You have relative certainty with N'Kosi Perry, even though his ceiling might not now be as high as I once thought it was. But I think that what we've seen from him raises the floor if he were to have to play extended minutes. Just because while Tyler Van Dyke is talented, he has not shown or proven that at the college level. And I know that that's not his fault or anything. I'm just saying.
Cam, how much of this decision do you think has to do with De'Aaron King's injury and his 50-50 status? I'm going to call it 50-50 status at this point for week 1.
I don't know. It stands to reason that would be a big factor. Like, hey, I could go somewhere else and everything, but I could stay here if De'Aaron King is not 100% ready September the 4th. Instead of rushing him back, I've already started against Florida State. I've already started against Virginia. I've already started against Virginia Tech. I've already started against these other teams. So again, while N'Kosi Perry might not be Johnny Manziel from that 1 year, or Cam Newton when he single-handedly beat Alabama. He might not be that, but he's probably not going to be a deer in the headlights because he's already started a bunch. You know what I mean? And that just gives a little bit more certainty, I think. And it settles the competition. But I think that, it's more introspective for Kosi of this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And just making that choice to move forward.
You mentioned his opportunity to go play Power 5 football and be a starting quarterback elsewhere. Where would you rank him among ACC starting quarterbacks? If he was the starting quarterback at Miami, where would you rank him right now? Generally, of course, we don't know. There are quarterback battles to be waged at certain schools coming into 2021 and across the Power 5, considering we've got about 64, I think is the number of Power 5 teams. And then you tack on a few of independents that are at that status in the high 60s. Where would you rank him as a starting quarterback in the Power 5 and the ACC in particular?
In terms of the ACC, if we start with the Coastal, Sam Howell, I'm taking over to Kosi. Georgia Tech, Jeff Sims, no, he turns the ball over too much. Virginia Tech, yeah, give me Kosi. Virginia, yeah, give me Kosi. Duke, yeah, give me Kosi. Virginia Tech, Duke, Carolina.
Pitt,
give me Kosi.
Who knows who those teams have coming back, though? Pickett's gone unless he opted to come back for another year. But anyway.
Right. I mean, but they had that kid from Arizona State or whatever, Yellen or whatever. So, so of the 5 in the Coastal, the 5 other teams, am I missing somebody?
Six other teams. So we're missing. We're missing
Pitt, Georgia Tech, Carolina, Duke, Virginia Tech. No, yeah, that's 6. Of them, I'm taking him over everybody but Sam Howell. In terms of the Atlantic, Ukulele from Clemson, yeah, give me GJ I know Uyangalele. Yeah, whatever. Give me ukulele. Give me who else is in there? Boston College. Yeah, that's close.
He's good.
He's good. I'm
And
gonna.
you're a N'Kosi Perry fan. So
I know, but even still, I'm probably gonna take Jerkovic. But that's like a very. I want to say that's like a real close kind of thing. It's not a big separation there.
No, I don't think so.
Wake Forest. Give me Kosi. Who else?
I don't know if Wake Forest Sam Hartman's coming back. He's a decent quarterback. He's
a decent quarterback. Give me Kosi.
He's not Bailey Hockman just left North Carolina State. At least went into the portal. So I don't know.
Yeah, still give me Kosi over him. Guy. Even though I know that we reprised the role of just being the palette for the backup quarterback to have a career day against Miami, which, for years happened from 2013 to like 16, well, 11 to 16, really. Every backup quarterback that we played lit us on fire, and Bailey Hockman reprised that. Give me Kosi instead of him. Who else is in the Atlantic? Florida State? Don't make me. What? No. Give me Kosi. Give me Kosi. He almost had his Mackenzie Milton. Yeah, almost had his leg snapped in half. If this is 2017, 18, N'Kosi or Mackenzie Milton, yes, I don't know if he's going to be that guy. But right now, no. Give me Kosi. Louisville. No, he turns the ball over too much. Give me Kosi. Although he can run, the Cunningham kid.
Yeah.
But again, I think that, just like Djokovic, it's maybe not 100% wide gulf between them, but I'm still choosing Kosi over him. You know what I mean? But so I would say in terms of the ACC, fourth, give or take.
And that's the exercise I wanted you to go through, because I was doing that in my head thinking he's coming back somewhere. He's going to be a backup where he's one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the conference.
That's what I'm saying, and again, it might be a, medium high floor, medium-ish ceiling kind of a thing. It won't be to quote Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the roof, unlimited potential kind of a thing or whatnot. But yeah, I would firmly have Kosi as the number 4, 5-ish starter in the ACC. If you extrapolate that out across, the entire Power 5, I would say, yeah, in that mid pack, in that of 64, I'd probably say in that, off the top of my head, 28 to 35-ish, probably. I mean, somewhere in there, middle of the pack, baseball term, value over replacement player or whatever. He's probably that league average, maybe a little bit over kind of a player. But yeah, I would say top 35 out of 64 starting quarterbacks in Power 5, give or take a place or 3. That's off the top of my head where I would rank him. And that's very good because that's your backup if you're Miami, because, and he has already had surgery that's been reported. He's already posted pictures of rehabbing and moving his leg, not necessarily bending his knee and everything. I mean, maybe he has, but I haven't seen that. But Derek King has already gone through the surgery process. He's along the path towards recovery. I'm not going to say that he's fully recovered, but it's not like you're still waiting for him to have this surgery or something like that. And so this is a guy that you reasonably will expect, if you had the surgery, right before or around New Year's, 9 months, that'd be September, so somewhere in there, you're looking to have him back. So if your backup quarterback would be slotted in as a top 35-ish starter, and then you have Derek King, who had the 4th or 5th highest odds to win the Heisman, that's rare air. That's the difference between these guys. You're talking a mid-tier, middle of the road starter versus one of the literal handful best quarterbacks in college football. That's where things are, and obviously, you want everybody to be healthy and into play, but should N'Kosi Perry be forced into action, I think you can get by with that, given his performance, his talent, another year in the offense and the skill that's around him.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is our Miami show. Each and every week we come your way with Hurricanes Live at least once per week. We got Cam Underwood on the line, State of the U. And we would remind you that there are several ways that you can contribute. Of course, leave your comments, your questions, your trash talk, whatever you want there in the live chat, and I will pick them off one at a time for Cam. And if I have anything to say, of course, I will chime in as well. Hit that like button. That's what YouTube likes. The algorithms like the like button. So please help us out by hitting the like button. Share these videos on social media. I heard a YouTuber that is in the college football realm share the other day that is maybe the most important contribution you can make. If you enjoy the content, just imagine the people that follow you on Twitter, on Facebook, they'll probably enjoy the content as well if they love college football and Miami in particular. So share the videos. And of course, this channel, this particular show thrives based on your individual contributions and also any sponsorships that you could help us bring in. David Knight's a Notre Dame fan. Full disclosure there. Calls us on a regular basis. David's a great support here. Who will be the breakout player for Miami this year on offense? That guy that makes people, and I'm not even going to attempt what he was going for there.
I think he dropped the H. Think. Whoa.
Oh. Okay. There it is.
Elijah Arroyo, tight end. Frisco Independence High School, 4-star recruit. Coming in, he's going to early enroll in the next couple of days here because all the early enrollees should be on campus. What's today? Tuesday. So Thursday, the 21st, I believe, is when early enrollees move in to Miami. They start classes next week. You got a couple weeks until the last day to enroll, which, if you remember last year, was on the last day to enroll is when we got Keyshawn Smith when he got out his letter of intent from Washington State, signed up, enrolled in his classes, took a red-eye flight overnight to be in class the first day, Wednesday, or the first day he had to be after the last day to enroll. But I'm going to say Elijah Arroyo. I think that his talent is incredible. I think that he is a wonderful pass-catching tight end. He's about 225 pounds. I'd like to see him, or 220. I would like to see him 230, 35, give or take. But he's a guy who should leapfrog over guys who are in front of him on the depth chart, just like Brevin Jordan and Will Mallory did before him. Will Mallory is going to be your tight end one. I would like to see, and I think it's possible for Arroyo to be your tight end two and then move into the starting role as a sophomore. I just think that he has that kind of a talent, where he can make just leaps and bounds. He can come in and really be a top-level performer for this team, even as a freshman. He's not a new player in the world of college football, but I will also say Charleston Rambo, the transfer from Oklahoma, who should slot in as our wide receiver number one in this offense if all things go well. Mike Harley is coming back for his fifth year, whatever. I don't even know how long he's been on campus. But he's back for another senior season, Mike Harley is. And he's a very good number two, but he shouldn't be your number one wide receiver, honestly. And you have a guy with more talent and production in a Rambo, and he should slot in as one and then let Harley continue to do what he does as number two, because I don't think that he's going to be – he's not your big X. He's not your Michael Irvin. He's not your Amon Richards and everything. And, I get that he's very good and productive, but I think that he's very good and productive in that number two role where he can really maximize mismatches. So you let Rambo be the number one, and he's proven that he can do that. If you look at his film from Oklahoma, he's a guy who goes out there and makes plays, So, I think that, he's, like I said, he's not a new guy in the world of college football. You can go and look at the film of him on the field. But as a newcomer towards Miami, overall as a recruit, I would say Elijah Arroyo. And then just overall, as any new player to the offense, I would say Charleston Rambo.
43 catches for Rambo 2 years ago, 25 this past season in 2020. His first 3 out of 4 starts at Oklahoma in 2019, over 100 yards receiving. Now, I read this as a scouting report on Charleston Rambo, not as a criticism, but just as a question mark. There was much credit given in this particular scouting report to Lincoln Riley for scheming him open that he didn't have to fight for a lot of 50-50 balls. He was running a lot of routes to the inside of the field where he mismatched guys. He's a long strider, can run by guys. And again, Lincoln Riley being Lincoln Riley was able to scheme him open, and he will probably have to be winning more contested ball matchups at Miami and probably running more routes to the sideline. That's at least what I read.
Well, we'll see, because I mean, Rhett Lashley schemed guys open, but unfortunately, guys on scholarship to catch passes dropped them from Miami. You know, you have guys who were wide open now. If you go back and look, I mean, I know I say it, you know, in a comedic way for comedic effect, but go back and look at the games. There were guys who were wide open who dropped balls. You know, passes right in their hands, hit them in the middle of their single number, you know.
And if they could get open, Charleston Rambo could get open.
That's what I'm saying. Also, if you go back and look at Charleston Rambo's highlights, I know the majority of them, he's going to win those mismatches. There were also 50-50 balls where he went up over multiple defenders in a couple of times. There's a very long play in the one game. They ran 4 verticals. He was the 2, so they ran 3-by-1. He's the number 2 receiver on the trip side, and he ran that kind of crosser and just kept running. You know, he caught that ball in between 3 guys, got hit, spun out, kept going. There's another one down the middle of the field that's on his highlight where he mossed over 3 dudes and whatnot. Like, let it not go, you know, unsaid that he's just out here finding holes in zones and whatnot and, like, not making contested catches. That's not 100% accurate. Like, you can find times on film demonstrated the last 3 years of Charleston Rambo making contested catches down the field, in addition to being schemed open, because Lincoln Riley is very good at that. But like I said, Rhett Lashley schemed guys butt naked wide open as well. Remember that Louisville game? You had a 75-yard touchdown run with nobody touching Cam Harris until he dove in. The very next offensive snap after giving up a touchdown, they ran fake QB power, leaked out Jalen Knighton. He's butt naked wide open. You think about Mike Harley on some of those crossers and things that he caught. Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory, Mark Pope, D. Wiggins, you know, catches or drops for a couple of those guys. There were guys who were schemed wide open. So, I mean, you're going to have some of that, but you're also going to have the contested catches. And again, Rambo demonstrates that on film.
I watch Oklahoma play their 5 to 7 meaningful games per year. So when I saw Charleston Rambo to Miami, I was immediately thought, good for Miami. I know he's a productive player. I know he's good. I don't study game tape on Oklahoma. Just watch him play. He didn't necessarily wasn't like okay, this guy is you know, the best wide receiver I've seen in the last 10 years or anything, but I knew that he was a quality receiver. And then I read that scouting report and just thought, oh, I'll find out if that's true. I don't know. Nate 561. What are your thoughts on the coaching changes and the fact that Blake Baker is still on staff?
I wrote after the North Carolina game that performance on defense was fireable. And while he is around still as the defensive coordinator for meetings and things like that, Manny Diaz is going to call the defense. So in effect, Blake Baker has been fired from calling plays, if you want to look at it like that. And I think that that's a good thing, because again, does Blake Baker, run a similar version of defense as to what Manny Diaz, or style? Yes, but it's definitely, you know, the great value knockoff version versus the name brand version when it comes to the execution of it and the calling of the defense on game day. You know, it's similar but different enough where, you know, the knockoff brand version is enough where you can tell that it's a knockoff brand version. And getting Manny Diaz back on the sticks, necessary. I'm sorry. I would have liked a move to be made at defensive coordinator. As in, you know, thanking Blake Baker for his time, but wishing him well elsewhere. The only thing about that is when you bring in a new defensive coordinator, they're going to want to run their version of defense. They're going to want to bring in their guys. And while you had Ephraim Banda go to Utah State as their head lead sole defensive coordinator and took like a off the field staffer with him and got promoted to a on the field, like a quality assurance guy, is now their linebackers coach at Utah State with him. That's great. You know, and wish him the best. I think that he did a great job here, especially in terms of recruiting at safety. But you're not going to necessarily bring in a guy and retool everything. You know, so you bring in T-Rob, who we've been talking about for many a year coming to Miami. Miami native, he coached at Florida, he went to these other places, he was at South Carolina before, Auburn, things like that. He comes in to coach defensive backs. You basically swap Mike Rumph and DeMarcus Van Dyke. So Mike Rumph moves to an off the field recruiting role. And then you have DeMarcus Van Dyke being the on-field coach for cornerbacks, which also elevates his recruiting abilities, because when you're in a recruiting role, you can't go off campus for recruit. There's like certain things you can and cannot do, but you have more of a responsibility when you're on the field to coach. So he gets, and DVD coached other places. I know people were like, oh, well, were they smaller schools or JUCO and things like that? Yeah, but he does have that experience. Plus, he's a very demonstrated well recruiter. But he now really gets to go into that role full speed ahead. So you're going to have DVD, who did great work behind the scenes. He now gets a starring role on the coaching staff and in recruiting. You have T-Rob, who's one of the best around in development and recruiting. So you have that. Blake Baker stays as linebackers coach. Okay, don't love it, but again, Manny Diaz calling the defense. Hopefully he's able to cover some gaps that would be there. And then John Packey stays as strikers coach and special teams coordinator. And I know that people are looking at the special teams part saying, well, Miami hasn't had a return this long or whatever, blah, blah. You just had the Lou Groza Award winner for best kicker in America and the runner-up for the Ray Guy Award for best punter in America. You cannot ignore that when talking about special teams. You know what I mean? I talk about this with multiple people on Twitter all the time. JP is a guy I talk about with. I don't necessarily think that we're using the right guys as return men on specials. I just don't. And I think that if we got a little smarter with who we put back there to return kicks and punts, that would help things. But you can't look at special teams only as returns, man. You know what I mean? Because you got coverage units and then you got kicking, and Miami's combination of kicker and punter was the best in America. So leaving those guys or Pat Keith here, I understand fully. Would like to see him actually recruit a little bit better. I know that he made waves because he got a 5-star defensive lineman to visit when he was the off-field assistant, and then he got promoted to that on-field strikers position role a couple of years ago, even though that guy went to a different school and whatnot. But you're like, okay, well, if you got this 5-star to visit who's probably going to go to that school, probably could have just said, nah, I'm good, but you convinced him to come down here. That shows you something. But I need to see a little bit more from Packy in terms of recruiting. And yes, he got Andres Borregales to come down here to follow his brother Jose, but like, how hard was that really? You know what I mean? So I would like to see more, like maybe on striker or linebacker recruiting. That would be great. And then Todd Stroud steps into a supervisory role, and then you bring back Jess Simpson, the legendary coach from Loganville Grayson, who was here for a year and then worked in the NFL with the Falcons in the Atlanta area, and now he's back here as associate head coach and defensive line coach. He's the one who followed Craig Kuligowski. When Simpson worked here, the defensive line ate. They were some monsters. And I'm looking forward to that as well. And he's a dog as a recruiter. He brought in a lot of these guys who are now stepping into their third years. These are guys who were initially recruited by Jess Simpson. So if you're looking at, your Jared Harrison Hunts, of the world, those kind of guys in that class, these are guys that he recruited and now will get to, have the upperclassmen years with. So I think that that's a great return addition to the staff. So it's not necessarily everything that I wanted to see with Blake Baker still here, plainly put. I understand why people are also lumping Pat Key into the same thing, but I think that maybe that's a little short-sighted for me. But it's a home run when you add Simpson, even though Stroud did a great job coaching this year. But you add Simpson, DVD, and T-Rob. And you have Manny Diaz back calling the defense, which was so good that got him to be a head coach, hired at Temple, and then come back here. Like, that was why when he came on his reclamation tour, he got fired at Texas, steps back. Okay, works his way up, goes to Louisiana Tech, goes to Mississippi State, comes to Miami, boom, 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 grows up, and then gets a head coaching job. The last step of that was running an awesome defense here. And you got that guy calling defensive plays again. I like it. It's great. Could it have been better? Yes, but we'll see.
Ronan, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. Want to remind everyone that if you've got any connection to a sponsor, please hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, whether that's specifically for this show or for the channel. Appreciate the individual contributions as well. Ronan asks, first, great to have you back, Cam. Have heard rumors of additional ICs for the 2021 recruiting cycle. Do you know anything or is likely to happen? Keep up the great work. Both of you. Go Canes.
ICs, I believe, is to be initial counters.
Okay.
And so basically, how many can you add in this class? The NCAA does have the 25 per year initial counter rule. But you can play with that depending on counting guys forward or backwards or, whatever, depending on when they actually hit campus. This year, I believe the NCAA, because they extended the return amnesty, if you will, to every player, saying that you can come back at your, 2020 classification, you can return at that same classification. Then they said, okay, we're going to do that. But instead of now taking the limit of scholarships from 85 to 110, which would be your 85 plus the 25 incoming counters, and it said, your 85 scholarship limit, we'll see if we're going to play with that. But the initial counters is going to be hard capped at 25, whether that's high school, whether that's transfer, we don't care. It's going to be 25 initial counters, period. Okay. Now, for Miami, you counted a guy forward. That would have been Jared Williams, the last transfer. Okay. So that means 24 initial counters because before this cycle, you already counted a guy forward to this year. So unless something changes, I haven't heard anything about additional incoming or initial counters. I haven't heard anything about them changing that number. So for all, I believe that Miami's full for this class as of right now, unless somebody wants to then come in August at the beginning of fall camp. So I don't think that they're going to change. I haven't heard anything about them adding, an extra 10 initial counters or whatever, things like that. And honestly, Rod Farr was talking about Alabama. That's really the curtail against Alabama because we already know that Alabama loves to oversign. They'll sign even still when they're saying, okay, we took away the oversigning thing, which is sign 30 a year, which over 4 years would be 120. Your scholarship limit is still 85. And then you kind of just figure it out to whittle down the roster. But you've signed all these guys every single year. That's what oversigning is. Alabama will still do that, but then get a 4-star guy, 5-star guy, Jarez Parks, from up the road in Florida. They'll say, hey, why don't you gray shirt? So just work out at somebody's gym in Florida and then come in January, and then we'll have a scholarship for you as a 5-star level recruit. This is the kind of thing that they'll do. So if you add initial counters, I would say that those are going to be the teams who are really going to make that work. You know what I mean? Like, because everybody wants to be at Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, places like that. And a lot of the top talent is already spoken for because we already had the, national sign or the early signing day. But the additional thing is this transfer portal, which has hundreds of guys in it. And if you add initial counters, now that's going to give a landing spot for a lot more of these transfers because, like I said, Miami's already full. You already got a defensive end. You already got a wide receiver. You already got Tyreek Stevenson from Miami Southridge finally making the choice he should have made 2 years ago as a recruit, leaving Georgia, coming to Miami, announced his transfer the other day. That's awesome. But when you take 21 and then you add those 3 transfers, so DeAndre Johnson from Tennessee, who went to Southridge, you have Charleston Rambo from Oklahoma, and then the aforementioned Tyreek Stevenson, who also went to Southridge, and now he comes back home. You add those 3 guys on top of signing 21, and then you had a guy who counted forward. You're already full. Boom, done. So I have not heard anything or read anything or seen anything reported or rumored or anything like that about the NCAA adding additional incoming counters, i.e. extra numbers for either high school recruits or transfers to come in. But if they were to add numbers, then you're looking at a guy like Palai Gataote, the fourth from Bishop Gorman, who was at USC, the 5-star linebacker, who's been working out with Tate Martell. Why? They went to high school together. So you're looking at that saying, okay, well, we need additional depth and talent at linebacker. Now let's bring in Gatote. Now let's look at a different kind of a guy. Let's look at maybe another cornerback, because even with Stevenson, Miami only has 6. Let's look at these guys additionally to bring in. So are there ways that Miami could use additional incoming counters? Yes. Do I think those initial counters are going to come to give Miami the room to be a little bit more flexible? Probably not. So you're probably going to look at August, if ever, for adding more guys to this roster for this upcoming season.
We've got Miami football talk, people, on a Tuesday night with Cam Underwood. State of the U. Does it get any better? James Kane, do you think Mark Pope will actually improve, or has he shown what he is and always will be?
I mean, we can hope, and there have been flashes of greatness from Mark Pope. You can think of these catches up on the sideline and everything like that, tapping a foot and, big plays here and there. He did have a game winner. No, he didn't have a game winner. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did have a game winner this year. A RPO slant where he got loose, up the middle. He's flashed, but it's not been consistent at all. And hopefully he's able to hit towards the top end of his talent, because, again, this is a 4-star, 5-star kind of recruit. He's a guy who won South Regional State Championship. I've told this story before, and I was there and I saw it. I saw them a couple times in the playoffs, and Mark Pope made big plays. That was when I worked at Miramar. That was the initial blog thread that I had. It was Tracy Howard makes big plays, because the senior year in 2011, those playoffs, every single week, Tracy Howard did something that helped Miramar win that game. And when Mark Pope was in high school at Southridge, it was Mark Pope makes big plays. Now, there were other guys as well who went to Power 5, but he's the one who really set things off. In the state championship game, long story short, they were losing. They ran a go route up the left sideline for D. Wiggins, his high school teammate. It felt incomplete. They called a timeout. There's only 30-something seconds left. He went to the coach and said, run the same play. Put me over there. I'm going to score. We're going to win state. They ran the same play. They put him over there. He caught it. Moss dude ran up the sideline, and they won state, because he's like that sometimes. And that's where we really need to see him make these plays. And we see him be so demonstrative when he makes a play, because you can tell he has the potential to do that. But it needs to now be consistent, especially with his hands. You cannot drop open passes, guy. Between Pope and Wiggins, they'll drop more open passes than me and Mark combined. It was not pretty. And this is a guy, again, who was a high-level talent. He was a highly coveted recruit. Everybody in Power 5, Florida State, Alabama, all these other teams wanted Mark Pope, and they wanted Mark Pope real bad. And he just hasn't consistently shown that. And hopefully with another year with Rob Likens, he can continue to take a step forward. Hopefully with yet another year with Mike Harley demonstrating how to be a professional, with Charleston Rambo coming in and demonstrating how to work at a high level also. Hopefully that will maybe teach him something by osmosis. Or we're going to get the one random good play here and a couple bad plays there. I would love to see him really kind of break through the ceiling of his performance that we've seen. I'm just not sure that we're going to.
I need somebody to run a metric for me that gives a barometer on dropped passes and how many should be allowable. So when I see a quarterback is completing 65% of his passes, I know based on what I know about watching football and reviewing stats, what that means. I know that if a running back averages 4.8 yards per carry, okay, that's about what that is among his peers. I hear all sorts of statistics. This guy dropped 4 passes this year. He dropped 7. He dropped 1. Hunter Renfro 0-0-1 maybe for the entire career kind of thing. I would just love to see the metric there over what should be. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to drop a pass at some point, but there's no question that they're way over the bar. Those two guys, when it comes to dropping multiple passes per game, I should say. And I would think, and then I would like like to see an explanation of the judgment of what a dropped pass is. It seems like it should be pretty obvious, but there are a lot of somewhat contested balls. Do you consider those dropped passes?
Well, first of all, Pope and Wiggins had the highest drop rate of any starting receivers in Power 5 as per. I think it was David Hale from ESPN looked up those numbers with the drop rate, and though they were astronomical. I mean, it was like, what, 16 and 18 or 20% or something like that. So that's 1 out of every 6 catchable passes or 1 out of every 5 catchable passes. You know what I mean? And some of these Miami fans will remember, you're wide open, it's 3rd and something. I mean, they were consequential drops. And there were so goddamn many of them. Oh, my God.
They were consequential in terms of down and distance, but they were also consequential in regards to that would have been a 45-yard gain.
Yes!
There were a ton of those, too.
I mean, I mean, the hidden yardage from these things, exactly. It wasn't, they weren't all, 3 yards on 3rd and 2, which is consequential, but it could be 2nd and 7, 50 yards over the top, dropped it. Okay, now it's 3rd and whatever, you're behind the sticks. You're just like, bro, that's a field flipping play, and there's that. But I mean, yeah, it was just not a great season in terms of that for them, even with some of the good things that they did. There were just far too many drops, and I don't know if they weren't looking the ball in or were excited to maybe get in the open field or whatever. But I mean, it just wasn't great. But yeah, I mean, I would think that, if it hits you in your hands in kind of normal body ergonometry, then it would need to, that's a drop. If it's this, like a diving to the back line of the end zone, contested defender right there, that's an incomplete pass. That's not necessarily a drop. You hit a square in on, a 12-yard square in on 3rd and 9, wide open in the middle of zone. That's a drop. You know what I mean? But yeah, I agree with you. It would be interesting kind of a thing to really sit there and quantify all of those things. Kind of reminds me, I think Bomani Jones talked about he would read a dissertation about like emojis and GIFs as language, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's like something like that. Like, but really, like looking at it and studying it and saying, okay, like, yeah, we know that like for jokes and everything, but if you look at it as lexicon, for the language and everything, how does that mean? How does it come together and like actually quantifying that from a linguistic standpoint, which is an interesting kind of a thing. So looking at drops in that same kind of way, looking, classifying, quantifying in a similar academic kind of a way, would be an interesting pursuit. And I would definitely read that if somebody were to do that.
I've made this statement before. It's off topic to a certain extent, but we're going to get to this topic. I would love to see somebody re-rank recruiting classes. And you brought that up, that within a vacuum, specific teams and specific years have been ranked. But to do a true ranking, you would have to do the entire Power 5 beyond Power 5 to get to slot them correctly. And then you'd have to come up with a complete metric about production and what it means and all of that. It would be an exhaustive process, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, that would be a real big undertaking, to go through everybody and everything. And, you're going to take into account injury and, playing time availability and, there's a lot of things that would go into it. But then that's how you get like a guy like Josh Allen, who's just big and country strong, and he goes to JUCO and then he goes to Wyoming and, first round draft pick, and now he's balling out. Shout out to Ken Dorsey, Miami Hurricane great, as his quarterback coach, developing him into something awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, look, Ken Dorsey was the quarterback coach in Carolina when Cam Newton won an MVP and went to the Super Bowl. He's also the quarterback's coach now in Buffalo, as you are seeing this leap going forward for Josh Allen. Like, I mean, he's not necessarily this household name in the world of like, NFL coaching right now, but go and look at the work or the performance and production of quarterbacks coached by Ken Dorsey at the NFL level, and you're going to like what you see.
Interesting. Miami Talk here at least once a week live. This is our 116th edition. Most of those featuring Cam Underwood, State of the U. Check out his work and the rest of the staff there on State of the U. All right, we got to serve this one up, Cam. Set us up with those players who could have entered the NFL draft. Who's coming back? Who's leaving? I think most people watching have a pretty good grasp on what those two categories are. So I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on that. But I'm most interested in knowing if you have a strong opinion about any players in either one of those categories making a mistake on coming back or leaving.
The departures for Miami are expected ones. Quincy Roche, 2019 AAC Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year when he was at Temple. He's a fifth-year guy, comes down here, plays really well. He goes to the league. Probably a second or third round draft pick. Brevin Jordan, 3 years, the second and third, a little bit injury riddled, amazing tight end. He's a dynamic receiver. When targeted this year, Brevin Jordan produced the second highest QB rating of any player in America, second to Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith, when being targeted with passes this year. Elite talent. So he's a guy, I would like to say first round draft pick, but you're looking at a minimum top 45, top 50. So, top, round and a half draft pick. You get Jalen Phillips, who's another, fourth year guy. 17, 18, 20. Yeah, so he's a fourth-year guy, was the number one recruit in the 2017 recruiting class at UCLA, all this stuff, battled through injuries, he got medically disqualified at UCLA, debated that, came to Miami, redshirted, and just was a monster this year. So he's a fourth-year guy, working towards his degree and everything. So he's been in college for a while, first-team All-American, but not first-team All-ACC, which again just shows and proves that there's an anti-Miami bias because, I'm sorry, first team All-American, Football Writers Association of America, 247 Sports, all these CBS Sports, everybody else, first team All-American, and yet not first team in conference. To two guys at Pittsburgh who, with all due respect, are simply not as good and did not perform as well as Jalen Phillips is just simply fucking asinine. But he's a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick. So he leaves. If you remember before the season, Gregory Rousseau, he opted out because he was going to be a first-round draft pick. Is probably still going to be a first-round draft pick. He doesn't have the wear and tear of this COVID season. Plus the fact, I believe that his mother was a ER nurse or something associated with COVID healthcare, and being able to be around his family and everything like that. And through this whole time, he elected to step away from the Miami Hurricanes, to train to go towards the NFL. So, those guys are leaving. And then there's the other seniors. No, there really aren't many other seniors, really, who are leaving. And then pretty much everybody else is back. Derek King, that was a seismic kind of a thing when he decided that he's coming back. Cam Harris also coming back. I already spoke about Pope and Wiggins, but I mean, with all due respect, they weren't going to get drafted. So they're back. Will Mallory looks to step into the starting tight end role. Jared Williams, the right tackle who played with Derek King at Houston, he's back for a seventh year because he was a sixth-year senior last year. And then he's back for a seventh season. So that's a big one because, he's 24 years old and he has 50-something games of college performance already. John Ford along the defensive line, who might have been, like a 6th or 7th round draft pick, maybe. He's back. Zach McLeod is back. I think that you're going to look at him more as a defensive end than a linebacker, hopefully moving forward. And then Bubba Bolden, the USC transfer and safety, he's back. Waiting to see concretely what Amari Carter is going to do. But I believe that the NFL draft deadline to enter was yesterday. So if we haven't heard anything about him doing that, it stands to reason that he's going to be back. So yeah, I think that the guys who left are the ones who it makes sense to leave. Again, Quincy Roche, 5th-year guy, already in his 20s, he's an edge rusher. Top 3-round draft pick, boom. First-round draft pick, Jalen Phillips. I would have liked for him to stay, but I fully understand as a first-round draft pick, go and get that money. Got Gregory Rousseau, who already opted out to go and get that money. So that's really what you're looking at. And then Jose Borregala is also going to the NFL, and his younger brother Andre is going to come in and take over the kicking duties. after being the first Miami Hurricane ever to win the Lou Groza Award as the best kicker in America, which, you know, when you are setting records for being the first at the University of Miami in the football program, that's a sizable thing because this is a name brand legacy program with 5 national championships that, you know, is a household name, even if we have not necessarily been as dominant on the field as we would have liked over the course of the last few years. So, you know, yeah, I think the guys who left made the right decision to leave. I think that they're all in a better position to move forward towards the NFL, either for chronology or just for skill set fit at the next level. And for the guys who are back, they're taking advantage of the amnesty given to all college players. You know, and Mike Harley is back. You know, he's back for a 5th year. So, yeah, you know, I think that the decisions were right decisions, but it would have made Miami's team stronger for 2021 had you gotten 1 or 2 of those guys back, you know, of Jalen Phillips, Jose Borregales. Well, Jalen Phillips or Brevin Jordan mainly. Jose Borregales, I mean, yeah, he was the best kicker in America. Hopefully his brother comes in and he can compete at a similar level. And Gregory Rousseau already opted out and signed with an agent before the season. So, I mean, that wasn't going to happen. But, yeah, it would have made the team a lot stronger had they come back. But I think that the right decisions were made by all.
As we see from Chuck Mo Beer and James Walker and SEC Dog and others, please hit the like button. Individual contributions help keep the channel going as well as the show. And also, if you can connect us with a sponsor, that would be tremendous. Recruiting, National Signing Day, the second version coming up the first Wednesday of February. So we're just about 3 weeks away. What is in store?
Again, unless the NCAA changes their mind and gives additional, you know, numbers for incoming counters, Miami's done. You know, like I said, we signed 21. We had 20. Jake Garcia was 21 on, you know, during the early signing period. You get 3 transfers in Charleston Rambo, DeAndre Johnson, and now Tyreek Stevenson. That makes you 24. You already counted Jared Williams forward from when he got here for 25 for this class. And they said, hey, 25 is your hard cap. You cannot add more guys than that in this year. So now you would have to wait until August to add somebody else. So it should be uneventful. I'm already working on my, you know, full recap of this recruiting cycle for Miami because, again, you know, boat's full, seats taken. You know, like you're going to watch and see where some of these unsigned guys might go if there's any room in some of these other places. And I think that's why some of these guys in the transfer portal have maybe been told, hey, we have a spot for you. We just want to wait because we're recruiting this one guy and we want to see him sign and then just make sure that we have that number because of the way the incoming counters are and things like that. But like I said, in terms of Miami, it's really just going to be retrospective for us. You know, I took the day off because I always take off the signing days to do things. But like I said, I'm just working on a couple of recap pieces and, you know, whatnot. And I'll, you know, just move forward. But there shouldn't be, absent the NCAA changing their stance on how many guys you can add during this recruiting cycle calendar, I don't think that there's going to be any surprises because we just don't have any room for anybody else. Like literally, we have no room. We're done.
And Cam, since we haven't seen you since the end of the season, and there was a Cheez-It Bowl loss to Oklahoma State that some people get upset about, some people consider it exhibition play. People are all over the map when it comes to their evaluation and weight given to bowl participation. Of course, you lose your starting quarterback in that game. You get down 21-0. Valiant comeback, interesting game, quality opponent. I was interested from the standpoint of the second game of the season that I felt as though Miami was playing a team on their tier, the first one being North Carolina. So I wanted to see what the competition was going to look like on the field. Both teams had prominent players missing. So just, do you take anything away from that game? And if so, what do you take away looking toward 2021?
I mean, we just got to come out ready to play more. If you look at all these losses that we've had recently, you know, just we come out and I'm tired of hearing they're showing us something that we didn't expect, or we didn't see it on film. And yeah, we got down 17-3 or 21-0, but we kept fighting, or da, da, da. Where's the game where Miami comes out 21-3? It's in the lead. I'm tired of hearing this shit, man. I'm sorry to curse, but like, I'm sick of it, honestly and truly. And this was another one of those. And again, you had a kid who had one catch the entire year. The entire season had one catch, this kid. And he hits you for 6 and 103 touchdowns. Some unknown freshman kid from the middle of nowhere is like, what are you?
We'll see if he's going to be good next year, though.
I don't care.
That. I think you're talking about Presley, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say
we're
that he's
talking
not
him up after the game. I saw some reports that he's supposed to be a factor next year.
Yeah. No, but that's next year. You still had all your scholarship guys. You still had your star wide receiver playing until he decided at halftime he was going to quit and everything, and then they want to go behind the spin. Oh, well, we heard all week long that he was only going to play a half. Miss me with the bullshit. But you have a guy who has one catch all year long and he hits you for 3 touchdowns. 6 catches and 100-something yards in that game. That's unacceptable. Those are the kind of things that I cannot abide by. Those are the performances by the Blake Baker defense that I cannot rock with. How are you every week unprepared, not ready for anything? And again, look, I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. But if we're writing it, if we're tweeting it, if we're talking about it on here, you listen to other podcasts, Storm Surge with Kev, Gabby, and them, and Ricky, you know what I mean? If you listen to all these other shows that are out there, I mean, Marsha's podcast, 247 Sports, the Canes podcast, you got the Orange Bowl Boys with Roman, you got all these other podcasts, and we're all talking about it, writing about it, critiquing it, previewing it, talking about these things, tweeting about it or putting it on social. If everyone around is talking about these things, yet people in the building don't know and can't see them to the point where you're going down and losing these games or falling behind in a deficit, that's not something that I can abide by. That's the kind of thing why I said that Blake Baker had to go. And this was another performance that was emblematic of that kind of a thing, where I don't work in sports full time, but I could see some of these things coming, and the coaches who were paid handsomely from the University of Miami could not. That's a problem, And again, if you're looking at all these, I mean, North Carolina, they straight up said Miami was running a high school defensive scheme. It was going to be easy for us. We saw it from the first play. So, oh, boy, oh, yeah. No, we're going to kill them. That's something that we should be saying about, Savannah State. That's something that we should be saying about against, some of these teams. You know what I mean? Like, and they said that about Miami, and clearly, had the most yards against Miami ever, had the most rushing yards against Miami ever, did North Carolina. They didn't just talk about it. They went out there and they did it, and then they talked about, oh, yeah, that was easy. Oh, my God. Yeah, woof, that was terrible. They were in a high school defense. We had seen that. We just said we're going to run these 3 concepts, and they can't stop it because their defense is so, ineffective and pedantic and just, low level in its composition. I can't – and again, it wasn't the running game in the exact same way as North Carolina, but the bowl game showed a lot of those same kind of things. I can't rock with that, and I will credit Miami and a Manny Diaz coached team that they won't quit, because Manny Diaz's coach teams did not quit. Well, I mean, North Carolina, it was just body blow after body blow. They kept trying, but we were clearly overmatched. But again, North Carolina, with all due respect to them, they're not of the caliber where they should be able to do that to us. They're not Clemson. They're not Georgia. They're not Alabama. They're not 19 LSU. They're not Ohio State. They're not Texas from, whatever year that was, the Vince Young 2005. They're not that kind of team where they should be doing that to Miami with comparable talent. That performance should not happen. And you saw glimpses of that same kind of thing in the bowl game. But again, Miami did not quit, and I do like that. about them. So the personal fortitude, the stick-to-itiveness, all those kind of things. But I mean, there are a lot of things from the bowl, and the good, the bad, and the ugly from the bowl game is still up. So I did write that. But yeah, I mean, there were some things to like, and there were definitely some things to hate. And I hated it. Like I'm tired of watching this team come out and just be out-coached, out-prepared every single week. I don't like it. I mean, outside of Florida State and Louisville, when did Miami really step on somebody's neck? When did you come out and win in the last few years, except for those games? I mean, the last 2 years against those teams, so that's 4 games, maybe 1 or 2 others in the last.
Duke.
Okay, Duke is 5. Notre Dame 2017 is 6. But again, 2017 is 4 years ago now. So 6 games in 60? Shut up, Google. But 6 games out of 60 where you come out and you're the dominant team ready to play, or just clashing with a team from the front instead of just, oh my God, we gave up all these touchdowns. Oh, Virginia Tech a couple of years ago. Oh God, we're down 28-0 after the first quarter. Oh my God, let's go to N'Kosi Perry and see if he can bring us back. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired of that kind of stuff, man. And again, we saw glimpses of that in the bowl game. So, I mean, there's a lot to like and there's a lot to hate, but and again, I'm not saying that Miami's back. I'm not saying that we need to be a championship college football playoff contender this next year. I would like that to be the case, but you got to make steps forward, not steps back. And I saw people were saying, as a parting shot here, people were talking about, okay, well, as long as Miami's ranked at the end of next season, that's a step forward. Miami was ranked at the end of the 2016 and 2017 seasons in the AP poll, right? But Miami was ranked this year. So I posed the question and didn't get an answer. But I said, you're going to take the losses and the way that they looked against Clemson, North Carolina, and a bowl game next year, and that's going to be an acceptable season to you? I don't think so. So, it's going to be interesting because everybody in America is bringing back all these guys. From the roster because they got this, extra year amnesty. Clemson's bringing back everybody on defense because, of course, they would. But I really just want to see this program take steps forward, and that means a 2-loss season, in its entirety, not 3 and 4. I would even say, a 1-loss season, that's hard to come by because, that's close to being perfect, and perfect seasons are even tougher to come by. But yeah, a 3 and 4 loss season, it's not good enough. Over a 14-game season, that's 10 and 4. Is that going to be acceptable for you? Is that something that for a Miami Hurricanes fan or supporter, somebody who watches this program, follows this program, you're going to say, yes, I feel that that's a step forward from last year? Me, myself, personally, I'm not. So I know what the goals are. I know what the goals should be. And hopefully we're working towards having those come to fruition. But, it's going to be an interesting kind of a thing because, again, 9-3, 10-3, for me next year, it's better than the alternative because, again, in the very recent past, we've had losing seasons. I'm going to throw that out there. 10-3 is not good enough for me for next year. So I've maintained, it's the mentality, at least from before this season, 7-5 and prove me wrong, but 7-5 and we're searching for a new coach. So, like I said, I'm really looking towards a 2-loss season, really being the thing for Miami next year. And I know that that's a tough ask because you start with Alabama, and I know that the names are going to be different, but that's still going to be that Crimson Tide, and that's a monster right now. So you're really talking about a 1-loss season outside of Alabama. Miss me with the fact that I'm a fake fan because I think that we're going to lose. Miss me with that. Miss me with all of it. And believe that Alabama's going to win that game. Yes, you, Miami Hurricanes fan who's listening to this and watching this right now. You do. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to whatever. You and I both know the truth. So you're looking at a 1-loss season outside of Alabama being what the goal and standard needs to be for next year. I'm not going to lower what my standards are just to make other people feel happy. And if we fall short of that, I'm going to talk about it. Now, You have a 9-3 season, so you have 2 losses outside of Alabama. It's 1 point here, 3 points there. Looks good. You're close. You know, you can rationalize your way through it. But as I sit here right now, look, man, that regular season got to be 10-2 with a Coastal Division championship. Period. That is the goal. That's the standard. And, you know, that's what we have to work for. So we have to have goals and we have to have standards and we have to have a process to get there. And if it doesn't look like, you know, Manny Diaz is the guy who can reach those goals and take this program to where it needs to be, then we need to look in a different direction. But I'm not going to be sorry for having these high aspirations because of the talent on this roster, for the schedule as it's composed. And I know, like I said, it's tough because you got Alabama off the top and you're going to count that as an L. But whatever, anybody, anywhere, anytime. So we're going to go out there. We're going to do our best. We're going to fight, you know, pride on Miami U, and we're going to keep it moving. But I'm not a person who's going to sit here right now in January and say that a 3-loss season, a 4-loss season next year is going to be acceptable. If you want to hear that, look somewhere else because I'm not going to be that guy.
You had me scurrying for my phone to look up the final AP poll for 2020. I don't know that I had looked at it. I think I've looked at it. But anyway, I release my rankings at the end of the season. Ironically, from about 18 to 25 without referencing the AP poll, which of course you don't do rankings with referencing somebody else. I am almost matching them team for team. Anyway, I had Miami ranked number 22. Not that that necessarily means anything just because they're the 22nd ranked team in the country by a bunch of writers and myself doesn't mean they're not the 19th best team in the country or the 28th best team in the country. Just
Right.
I think that's a pretty fair ranking, though. Obviously, based on what they produced this season in beating a ton of teams that they are 20 to 25 to 30 spots better than in the nation, losing to the one elite team on the schedule, losing to the one comparable team on the schedule, and then a bowl game against another comparable team. So it would have been nice to have seen them take on a team on their tier and beat them. In my opinion, they faced 2 and they lost both of them.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff with Cam Underwood. Great to have him back. And certainly, you guys, hopefully we can get back together next week and all of you can leave your comments and questions then because I see more pouring in. But we have about wrapped it up for this week. Many of you have just jumped on in the last 10 or 15 minutes. You know what to do. Wait for the video to post and you can catch what you missed. Cam, we appreciate it. As always, great to see you. Great to have you back.
Yeah, good to be back. Good conversation. So thanks for having me. Thanks for spending some time with us, guys. And be sure you go over to stateoftheu.com. We're in the middle of the State of the U Awards. So we do give out a couple of lowlights because we're not going to shy away from the season. But we got a bunch of highlights, position reviews. We have some senior profiles and things like that. NFL draft season is coming up, so we'll be all over that as well. Basketball season, both men's and women's, is underway. So we have guys covering that. We're previewing baseball as we move and are looking at some other, spring football content and some things for the summer. So and recruiting always, because, recruiting never sleeps. So we're always on, Miami Hurricanes 24/7, 365. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we're at The State of the U. My personal account is at Underwood Sports, and the website is stateoftheu.com. Come over and fan with us.
All right, folks, I'm going to be back here at 9 o'clock Eastern time to take your calls. We'll see you then. Thanks, Cam.
See you.